Hey, Nick. Hey, do you remember a Scott Jeans?
Scott Jeans?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't think I recognize that name.
You don't remember Scott Jeans?
No, Scott Jeans.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're saying the name right?
Yeah, Scott Jeans.
I knew a Scott, and I knew a Scott. If you want to add some bleeps there, so that we make it seem like I'm saying people's names that shouldn't be on our pod. I don't know Scott Jeans who.
I Scott Jeans. I Scott Jeans. I Scott Jeans.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 28 of the podcast. Oh, fuck.
Hey.
I'm sorry. I was dumb. I got a new haircut.
That has nothing to do with your hair.
It doesn't. It was totally unrelated.
That has nothing to do.
It was just a dumb joke I wanted to do.
Oh, man. Oh my God. Hey, I totally forgot. Today we're actually doing a giveaway. So David, look under your chair and you should find a new 2012 International 4x4. Oh. Look under your fucking chair.
Yeah, no, it's still just jeans. Scott Jeans, everyone.
Who is in charge of putting these prizes away? Oh, what the fuck? All I got was this dumbass iPad.
iPad, more like dumb pad. More like the human Sentai pad from the South Park episode.
Folks, we're not a comedy podcast. I don't know what would make you think that we were comedians. But this is a podcast all about how we didn't get into cars. My name is Nick Scarpinato.
Cars.
I goddamn swear, half the intros that we record, you are yawning during your introduction.
I've filmed so much today. I filmed 2 videos earlier.
Wait, really quickly. This is a 2012 International 4x4. I don't know if International is actually a brand. But we're talking foreign films today in our film section. And this is our sweet, lovely co-host, Vanessa. She lives in the closet now. And I've told her plenty of times, Vanessa, honey, you don't have to be scared. You can come out whenever you want. And she doesn't say anything because she's a stuffed animal. But we love her all the same. Isn't that right, David?
That's right.
Okay. So what were you going to say? I interrupted you before you said what you were going to say. The South Park, was it about the hoodie?
Yeah, I just wanted to show my Butters hoodie.
You gotta...
Oh, hamburgers.
Dude, it's a pretty good hoodie. It's nice
Even though Ike is my favorite, there's not a lot of Ike merch.
Ike is your favorite?
I fucking love Ike, dude.
I think that's the hottest South Park take I've ever heard. Is my favorite character is Ike.
Bro, when Ike fucked his teacher, that was amazing. She's like, Ike, that was amazing. And then he's like, Ike meya ñoño.
Why am I... This whole time I thought you were talking about Clyde.
Oh, no. It's Kyle's baby brother.
And then you said fucked his teacher, and it hit me. It hit me just who Ike was. Yeah. Okay, no, you know what? That's a lukewarm take. I think a lot of people like Ike, right?
Ike's awesome.
Ike is pretty cool. I've been seeing a lot of behind the scenes footage of Matt and Trey bringing their kids into the booth to like do Ike's voice.
Yeah.
It's adorable. It's very cute. If y'all haven't seen Ike's voice recording sessions with Matt and Trey's kids as like children, go and watch it. It's after you listen to this podcast. I'm currently using my phone as a second light source on my face. So for the sake of the video, I can't just play that audio, that adorable audio of children saying the F word into my microphone.
Is gone. That's why I'm yellow.
The sun's not gone.
I mean, it's pretty much gone.
Oh.
It's setting.
Well, it is. Hey, how did you feel about the skip ahead, the time?
Yeah,
the time
it's
change?
trash as usual. It fucks everything up because now My Hero resets at 10 instead of 9, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah,
It sucks.
Yeah, I was awake to watch it change in real time because I did not realize there was a time change and I had to wake up the next morning at like 8. And so I had gotten home late on Saturday and I was like, you know what, I'm going to stay up for a little bit. I'm going to play my games. I'm going to, do whatever because I don't have to wake up super early tomorrow, I mean, like, even if I go to bed at 2, I still have 6 hours. And then I look at my clock, I look at my watch and it's like 3 a.m. And I'm like, fuck, no way. No way. It was just 1:59. Are you kidding me? You pipsqueak. You absolute tiny structured individual. How dare you tell me that the time isn't what I just thought it was? And so I went to bed angry and I woke up angry, all right? I mean, part of that is because I pissed myself, but that was only because of how angry I was and how much water I drank the night before. That joke doesn't really work. I'm better at setups than punchlines. Just how the same way that David and I, we've been friends for so long that we finish each other's
thoughts.
There he goes. There he goes with the awesome punchlines.
Yeah. Punch.
Well, speaking of our mobile games, I figured this is something that we could just talk about in the intro. Things that we've both been up to. I've been playing a lot of this new. So there's this new mobile game for Street Fighter called Street Fighter Duel, and I've been playing that nonstop. I downloaded and then deleted an Avatar: The Last Airbender game last night because I thought it would be good, and then it turned out to be trash. And then I realized that a lot of these companies and a lot of these properties are trying to cash into the gacha business because it seems like every month or so there's a new gacha game that's coming out, and some of them are phoning it in and some of them feel genuine and new and stuff like that. But Dokkan's still hanging in there, still carrying on super strong. Apparently it's Saiyan Day coming up. By the time this episode comes out, it will have passed. But Saiyan Day, I think, is March 18th, something like that. And there's a rumor that the new unit is going to be a Super Saiyan God Goku from the Battle of Gods movie, which I'm not going to spend my stones on.
Whatever.
Because I got to save them for the anniversary because I want those Z-Boys. Anyone who plays Dokkan, I mean, it's fine. What is that? Whatever.
Whatever on this new Goku. Whatever.
Oh.
Whatever.
It could be a new Beerus too. Who knows? Like a part 2.
No. Not happening.
Yeah. No, that's all right. No, these games trick you into spending your hard-earned fake money on characters that you don't need because games like Dokkan,
like the fucking Leon and the Charizard that I summoned for,
yeah,
and then a couple days later these fucking trio drops. I
know, dude. Yeah, the trio is currently still fucking me over. I caved, and I spent a little bit to get Hob, and I had to use pity points on him again. He's the second character of this trio that I've had to use pity points on, and now Bede is almost at 200 points out of 400. So I swear to God, if I cannot get a single one of these characters on just regular summons, I'm going to piss myself again, and I'm not going to change my underwear. Everyone's just going to have to smell it and be in the same room as piss pants because I can't get over it. I can't get over how shit these rates are all of a sudden. But you know what? That's not what you came here to listen to. You came here to listen to two adult men talk
came
about...
here to listen to how I just hit 15,000 gems in My Hero, and I'm fucking ready.
Woo woo! Well, hey, you know what's going to happen soon is they have been releasing characters from this newest season almost like a month after they drop in the show. I would not be surprised if we get like a vigilante Deku coming up soon. One that has Black Whip and one that has like the mask up and one that looks super edgy. I'm only at 3,000 gems.
Although if I spend 15,000 gems on a single fucking character and I don't get them, I'm deleting the game at that point.
That's fair. That is fair. I will say if I had to rank all three of the mobile games that we play, that both of us play, I think just because I'm a little biased, I think Dokkan has to go first because if I were to delete any of the three mobile games, I think I would delete that last because I have like 6.5 years put into that game. So it would be, I don't know. At this point I got to ride it out till the end, till the natural conclusion of this game's life. And then I think second would have to be My Hero, just because it's more fun for me to play than the Pokemon one is. Because with Pokemon, I feel like I rotate my favorite teams, every once in a while. But with My Hero, it's like, no, this is the team that I'm using right now, and that feels good. It's like I can sweep most of the events with this one team. And in Pokemon, it's like, nope, can't do that. You got to have the new character to do this event. Otherwise, it's going to chew you up and spit you out and make you piss your pants again. Stop it.
Yeah.
So Pokemon goes on the bottom. As much as I love Pokemon, at least Pokemon has a bunch of other games that you can play that are arguably better gameplay-wise and feature the same Pokemon. And you can just look at pictures of the trainers in the game, So, I don't know. You could argue about that. You could argue that point about any of the mobile games that we are talking about, but it's fine. This is what I choose to spend what very little time that I have on this earth doing. That's how I choose to spend it, is listening to pixelated anime boys and girls yell at me and say cool stuff. But speaking of games, we still haven't talked about this yet, but they're making a new Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi game. And I know you never played any of the Budokai games or the Budokai Tenkaichi games, but we recently just talked about Budokai 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Granted, it's at the bottom of the list because I think there's just better alternatives out there.
But it is still there.
It's still there because it was the first home console game I ever owned. And now they're making a new entry for that series on next-gen consoles, and I'm an adult who makes money and can spend that money on anything that I want, no matter how stupid it is. So I'm gonna spend money on mobile games, and I'm gonna spend money on this Dragon Ball game, and play it for 3 days, and then get frustrated because people online are already infinitely better than me, and I have a bit of an ego thing, to quote Miss Lizzie McAlpine. I have a little bit of an ego thing. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I think it could be really fun. And currently the only video games that My Hero has is a half decent arena fighter, that I don't know, only got its English dub patched into the game during quarantine. That felt weird. But yeah, so I don't know. Dokkan, I'm never gonna delete you. Don't worry. My Hero, you better fucking give me the characters that I want, or I swear to God. There's no threat that I can offer that game that's worse than
fucking delete your ass so hard.
Yeah, it's that's about as far as you can go. And then with Pokemon, I was just telling someone that I remember a conversation that I had with my cousin. Shout out to KJ. We were at church playing Pokemon instead of worshiping the Lord. So we're both going to hell. Sorry to break it to you, buddy. But we were playing Pokemon, and we were both 12 or 11 or 12. And I remember, without even looking up at him, we were just playing our game. And I go, "Hey, KJ." He's like, "Yeah." And I say, "Do you think you're ever going to not like Pokemon?" And he was like, "No, I don't think so." And I was like, "Sweet. Me neither." And it was just, I don't know. I just, in that moment, I couldn't have guessed that I would still like Pokemon 10 years, 11 years later. Yet here it's been longer than that. I'm 27.
Yeah. It's like 14 years later. Anyway, we gotta fucking get this show on the road.
I'm 27. I'm not getting that time back. It's fine. So today, if you're still with us, you will be spending your time listening to us talk about we're going to continue my list. We're going to go down the list of favorite games, movies, and albums, starting with my number... Oh, no, we're starting with the movie first. So this month, we decided to do international movies just because there was a new movie that was released that kind of coincided with this specific theme. And I wanted to talk about it before it left my brain, because I don't know when the next time I'll watch it is going to be. But the movie is A Man Called Ove, which got a recent American remake called A Man Called Otto, starring Tom Hanks. And I figured it'd be kind of cool to talk about, because I watched the Swedish version with my family the other night, and David had seen the American version just like a couple weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago? Something like that?
Oh, man. I think it's at least been over a month and a half, probably.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like January movie, so it's been a bit.
Either way, we're gonna talk about the seemingly same movie, but we're gonna discuss the differences between the adaptations without having seen the other's adaptation, if that makes sense. So this will be our international movie picks, because honestly, without spoiling too much, I really liked A Man Called Ove, and we'll see what your thoughts are on it, David, on the American one. Then we're going to be talking about my number 9 favorite album of all time, which is Taylor Swift's Speak Now. Much controversial pick between the two of us as far as things to talk about, albums to talk about, musicians to discuss. And then we're going to cap it off with my number 14 favorite game. Another nostalgia-driven choice, but a choice nonetheless. Guitar Hero 2. And why don't we just break this puppy open by talking about A Man Called Ove. So, I'll go ahead and kick things off, since I guess the Swedish version came out first chronologically, and I saw it more recently. So, I'll be able to talk ad nauseum, at least for a little bit. So, A Man Called Ove. They call him Ove in the movie, but it's spelled O-V-E. So, for all intents and purposes, I think I'm just going to say A Man Called Ove is a movie about a grumpy old guy who is a widower, and he has new neighbors move into the house next door in this small Swedish village. And
push-ups.
Huh?
Hey, you know how Swedish people say push-ups?
No.
Push-ups.
Ove doesn't do any push-ups in the movie.
Shout out to Josh for the little classic.
Push-ups.
Push-ups.
And he is able to find a new lease on life through, the new lives that enter his life over the course of the movie. It's based on a novel, a best-selling Swedish novel. It is apparently I think the third most viewed movie in Sweden, just of all time. I don't know if that's just theaters. I don't know if that's combining like home release, but that's cool. And also, I didn't know that the main character tried to off himself like 7 times.
He does it in your movie too?
Yeah.
Yeah, he tries to kill himself so many times.
I had to wonder, like, as I was watching the Swedish one, I was like, oh my God, we are 10 minutes in and already, like, he goes to the hardware store to buy rope and he just hangs it up in his living room. And he keeps getting interrupted.
Does he bitch at the cashier for, like, he can't give, like, a little more rope or whatever? He's, like, charging him for the whole length?
No, in the Swedish version, he complains to the girl behind the counter who's nonchalantly chewing gum. He's like, "Hey, who made this rope? Like, what? Like, this is cheap rope." And then the girl behind the counter is like, "What are you trying to use it for?" And obviously, he can't say like to kill myself, so he just gets frustrated and he walks away.
Oh no, because in the other one, he's complaining that he's cutting like a little under 2.5 feet, but they're charging him for 3 feet of rope. So the guy behind, he's like bitching about it. He's like, "Well, why am I getting charged for 3 feet of rope when I only want like 2.5 or whatever?"
Right.
And the guys behind him was like, "Oh, I'll pay for it." He's like, "No. You know, typical old person shit. Like he's just trying to save like 14 cents.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like even before the movie started, I had just assumed that this movie was going to be all about it would be catering to the older audience, you know, like, oh, this is a relatable movie for me because I'm also old and cranky, and you know. But I feel like at least in the version that I watched, and I'm sure in the version that you watched too, there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more in ways of themes and ideas that they tackle over the course of the movie that are relatable to anybody, right? Like losing a loved one and having to cope with that. The idea of over the course of time losing touch with your friends. Like in this movie, there's a really good funny bit where the neighbor that, so there's a lot of flashbacks in the movie that go back and forth between Ove as an old man after his wife passes away, and then Ove when he meets his wife, and then they go on dates, and then they move into the, it's very much like the first 10 minutes of Up, but if it were like a whole movie. And when he moves into the village for the first time, he walks outside and he sees a kid stealing a bike and then another guy running after him. And so they both start running with each other. They don't know who the other guy is. So they start running with each other, and the guy with the glasses, he looks over and he's like, "How's it going?" And then Ove is like, "Yeah, it's good. My name's Ove." And then they just both become like the in the town, basically like the neighborhood watch. And Ove is really into cars because his dad was really into cars. And so he bonds over cars with this new neighbor that he met as a young man. And in Sweden, he was super into the Saab, which is like an older car model that a lot of like car heads are really into because of its reliability and the parts and stuff. But his neighbor is really into Volvo. So they slowly, like once Ove discovers that his neighbor is a Volvo guy, they slowly drift apart for like decades as they get newer generations of these like specific models. And then in like almost modern times, before Ove's wife passes away, he's like, "You know what? It's been long enough. Like their kid is moving to America and like he's getting married, and like I think I should just bury the hatchet with this guy. I think we're both adults. I think it's time." So he goes up to his friend and he's like, "Hey man, you know, here's a bottle of wine or whatever. Like, do you want to talk, you know?" And his neighbor's like, "Of course, man. We're friends. Like, let's hang out. By the way, do you want to see my new car?" And he opens up the garage, and it's a it's like a Subaru or something. And Ove gets pissed and he walks away, and he's like, "You son of a bitch." And then his neighbor's like, "What? I can't drive a Volvo forever." I don't know how that played out in the American version, but
it's the exact same shit.
Oh, is it?
Except it might have been like a Ford and something else. I don't remember the exact car, but
yeah,
no, same exact thing.
So I feel like the only differences in these versions of the movie are going to be like, you know, one is going to cater to American audiences a little bit more, and one is going to cater to like European, like Swedish audiences more. But nah, man, I really liked it. You know, it definitely plays out like a movie that was based on a book, because you get a lot of narration, you get a lot of like scenes in a movie that feel like they were almost chapters out of a book, and then they skip to the next scene and it's like 4 months later, and you're like, what the hell? Why did that happen all of a sudden? Like, you know, first it's spring and then you see snow on the ground, and then spoiler alert, Ove dies at the end, but only after, you know, he's made friends with all of his neighbors, and
How does he die in yours?
he has a heart attack. He has a big heart.
In the bed? They find his body on the bed or whatever?
Yeah, and the cat's laying on his chest.
Okay, yes. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah. Wow. But no, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I know. I read a little bit of the synopsis of the American one, but there's a scene where there's a kid on a bike who's like riding past the house, and Ove, he sees him opening the mailbox, and he's delivering his mail, and he starts to chastise the kid because he's like, "Hey man, use the other side of the road if you're gonna ride your bike or whatever," and the kid is like, "Oh yeah, Sasha used to live here." And she helped me out a lot. She helped out the community a lot. I don't know who you are, but like, have a good day. And Ove is like, oh man, that's my wife. Let's talk a little bit more. Kid is like, yeah, I'm saving up for a car so that I can like, take my girlfriend out on dates. And then he's fixing up his bike or whatever, and Ove, offers to help fix the bike, and then he takes it to the shop where the kid works. And then he finds out that the girl that the guy was talking about was another guy, and he was just like closeted, and he was afraid to tell Ove, this older guy, like, oh yeah, I got a boyfriend that I'm fixing this bike for. And then there's a whole scene where Ove is like talking with his neighbor, his friend, and he was like, hey, are you one of those gays? And then the neighbor is like, dude, you can't just fucking say that.
Okay,
and
that was not in Otto.
Yeah, I feel like, because I read in the American version, it's a transgender character, right?
Maybe.
Was there that B plot at all?
Maybe, I don't know. Like it's been like 2 months since I've seen this thing, so.
Yeah. So again, I feel like there are only smaller like cultural differences. But yeah, I don't know. What were your like general thoughts that you remember like walking out of the movie?
Like, it was good. I mean, there's some funny moments, and shocking how many times he tries to kill himself but just can't.
Seriously, it's like 7 times. Like, he tries to hang himself like 4 times, and then he tries to, do the garage thing once.
And he tries to like jump in front of a train, and he ends up saving another guy, and he becomes like a hero to everyone. And there's a whole thing about like getting the news team to expose some company or whatever to help that other friend out. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what, but yeah, it sounds like the exact same movie except one is Tom Hanks.
Yeah. So I don't know. As far as international movies go, I haven't seen a whole lot of international. Like, I've seen anime movies that are dubbed in Japanese, but I wouldn't consider those. I would. It would feel like a cop out on my part because I already like anime a lot, and a lot of the anime movies I go see are dubbed in English. And so for international, I was like, all right, well, it's either Parasite or it's A Man Called Ove, and A Man Called Ove made me cry a couple of times. And it was a really nice story. I feel like the actor that played Ove was, he played the role very earnestly, and he felt like a grumpy old man, but like the chemistry between like his younger version and then his wife was really believable and cute to watch and to see. And I'm sure Tom Hanks did a good job too. Like I just have a hard time believing that Tom Hanks can be a hateable character. Like, cause in the beginning you're not supposed to like Otto. He's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah. Like, why are you bitching about 40 cents of rope when you're about to end your life? Fuck off.
Did Tom Hanks also put newspaper down in his car when he drove the kids, like the neighbors' kids, to the hospital to see their dad? Because that was a funny little detail.
I don't remember.
Because like Otto never, Ove never had kids. Yeah, so he's kind of an asshole to the neighbor kids too. There's a scene where, like, early on, the dad next door, he falls off a ladder and like breaks his leg, and the mom next door, who just moved in, she doesn't have a driver's license, and there's a whole thing about like, how old are you? And she's like 30, And he's like, oh my God, you don't have a driver's license? And he begrudgingly takes her to the hospital, but she has to take her 2 kids because she's like, I mean, there's no one home to watch them. So before he gets them in his car, he puts down newspaper like on the back seats. And I was like, what, like they're dogs? Like he's afraid they're going to piss themselves? What the hell? Oh yeah, and then I don't know what happens in the American version, but he gets like arrested basically for harassing a hospital clown.
Yep. Because he didn't give him the same quarterback.
Yeah, something like that. And in the Swedish version, all he did was step on the clown's extra long shoe, and then the clown tripped. And then the police were called, I guess. I don't know if he actually got into a scuffle in the American version, but
I think he was just yelling at him because he did like a quarter trick.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need this quarterback. And he's like, all right. And he does the trick, but it's not the same quarter because obviously it's how it works. So he's like, this is not my quarter. Give him my quarterback.
Yeah. And then the clown's like, dude, it's a single coin. Like I gotta go. Yeah. So I don't know. I would definitely watch it again if just to see how the American version did certain things. But I feel like in this case, you know, it's a very poignant film about some very heavy topics, and like obviously it tackles them in a way that like it's still heavy, you know, but there's a lot of humor involved still that make it tugs at your heartstrings, and it's ultimately a feel-good movie, even though the main character dies at the end.
Yeah.
So I'd give A Man Called Ove 4 out of 5 stars. Swedish stars. So what are you gonna use? Donuts?
4 out of 5 meatballs. 4 out of 5 Ikeas. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's all I could think about the whole time too.
I'd give it a 4 feet out of 5 foot of rope.
Yeah, feet, not meters.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Because we're fucking American. Foot. It's a foot.
Cue bald eagle screech, and maybe like Bruce Springsteen. I don't know.
Anyway.
It's just screaming. So go check it out. Let us know what you think. But in the meantime, we're going to move on to our next topic. So growing up, I was not as much into music as I am now, which is, I know, hard to believe, because they always tell you that it's in the...
I'm sorry.
That was a silly face. The silly face you got there.
Yeah. Pretty good at that.
You know, you should be a hospital clown. You know, just as like a side gig. But
I think it'd be really good. You know, I think it'd be really good at, you know, the like the people they hire to scare people at like amusement parks, like during Halloween. Fuck, I'd love to do that.
Dude, volunteer at a haunted house one of these years. Like, I think you would be a good haunted house volunteer. There are so many haunted houses that like hire people on the spot. If you told them like, hey man, I can only do this once a week, but you don't have to pay me. I just want to scare the shit out of people. Like, I guarantee they'll give you a spot. You know?
Yeah, I think it'd be really good at it.
Yeah, I was not very good at music growing up, and I didn't really think of myself as a musician until a little game called Guitar Hero came out, specifically the third one in 2007.
Wait, what? Are we talking about the music first?
Fuck! All right, well, if you want to...
Yeah, I'll fix it.
No, just leave it in as is. Leave it in as is. The world deserves to see me at my lowest point. Man, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't even realize the format of his own show, and he pissed himself again. That's 4 pissing myself jokes. You're welcome. Just use any one of those in the promo, the trailer.
Jesus.
I'm talking Taylor Swift. So my number 9 album of all time. Really quick before I get into the actual album, I want to discuss, because I'm excited about how nerdy this is and how this makes me look. In an effort to kind of consolidate my thoughts, and I'm sure you had a system for your top 10 as well, but for me, in order to figure out what my top 10 would be, especially in the middle, I feel like it gets really hard to do rankings in the middle because it's like, how do I distinguish both two 7 out of 10 albums? It's like, does it come down to one song? Does it come down to like the artists themselves, whatever? So what I did was I wrote down all 10 albums that were considered of mine to be, in my favorite top 10. And I went through every track and I determined how many of those I would skip during a normal listen. Because I think the perfect albums are albums that you can listen to without skipping a single song because you like every single one, Or you acknowledge that every song has a purpose, like some songs have tracks that are intros or outros to other songs. So, my number 10 album, the Third Eye Blind album, had coincidentally the most amount of skips per like total album track. So that's the second part of my ranking, was I would take the remaining amount of songs that I liked off the album and I divided them by the total amount of songs. So I got a percentage. So I basically graded all of my top 10 albums. So Third Eye Blind
You're
came
another
out.
one that uses math.
Oh yeah.
I remember when me and Haley did the Steve Miller video, she literally had to write every song and average them out. Use math to determine the order.
Yeah.
That's not what I do. I do the throw off a bridge method, That's simple as that.
Yeah, I just figure if this is like a definitive list, I want to make sure that I have actual scientific mathematic evidence to back up my claims.
Unbelievable.
So Third Eye Blind earned a score of 64% because I would skip 5 songs out of the 14, leaving just 9. And my number 9 album, Speak Now by Taylor Swift, was tied with Third Eye Blind because it also had 14 songs and I would skip 5 of them. So they both ended up with 64%, but the reason why Taylor Swift comes out on top is because the songs that I like off of her album, I think I like more than the Third Eye Blind. And it just comes down to, personal preference. Like if I were listening to songs in a playlist, I would most likely choose more of the Taylor Swift ones over Third Eye Blind, at least from those specific albums. So now that I've taken the fun out of listening to music, I want to actually talk about the album. So Taylor Swift is an artist that we're all aware of, whether we'd like to be or not. She's one of the most famous people in the world, and whether you agree or disagree with the general consensus about her music, she is not going anywhere anytime soon, and she will be playing over CVS radios across America for probably as long as we're alive. And I, like many boys my age in 2010, refused to listen to any Taylor Swift because I thought, Taylor Swift is for girls. One Direction is for girls. I want to listen to real music like Nickelback and like new Guns N' Roses. And that was a mistake because I ended up retroactively listening to a lot of albums by artists that I had kind of dismissed altogether when I was a teenager later in my life and discovered, oh my God, there's a lot of good stuff here. And Speak Now is one of those albums only because I had started listening to more Taylor Swift in high school when I'd said, you know what, fuck like conventional, like I'm not just going to listen to metal and heavy rock. Like I'm going to listen to other stuff too because what?
It's so fucking yellow on my camera. It's disgusting. Speaking of pissing yourself, bro. Piss all over my camera lens. Yeah. All over my camera lens.
I'm glad you finally got that package that I sent you and opened it up in your room.
I'm about to color correct the fuck out of this trash.
Yeah, speaking of color correction, I almost chose red from Taylor Swift, because that album was the first album that I listened to of hers in full and appreciated. But Speak Now I ultimately went with because upon listening to it for the first time, I went back and forth between two thoughts. Either, oh, this is the album that song is on? Okay, cool. And wait, so this just keeps like getting better. Like 14 songs is a lot. And I will be the first to admit that a lot of Taylor Swift albums have way too many songs. And then she comes out with the bonus track edition, and it's got like 20 songs on it. And for fans of Taylor Swift, I guess that's not an issue because, you know, you're going to like her music no matter what. But for me, especially as I get older, I'm like, dude, I don't have that much time anymore. Like, I don't have an hour and a half, you know, I'm just driving to Jewel, you know, so I'm just going to, I only need 10 minutes, dude. So for me, any album that goes over like 12 songs max has to be able to justify the amount of songs. And honestly, I feel like given the amount of songs off this album that I would skip, I don't think it's able to justify being 14 songs long. But the 9 songs that I do really like and do really fuck with are really good. I think part of that is helped by the fact that this is one of the only albums that Taylor Swift wrote all of the songs. Like, she writes most of her songs, but she ultimately ends up getting someone else to co-write with her or like make some adjustments to some parts of the songs or write instrumental parts to the songs. So they get credited as songwriters as well. But this was the only album for a really long time where every single track was written solely by Taylor. Which is really cool because I think she is a great storyteller and she takes the detail-oriented visual language of country music and she applies it to a more pop-centric, melody-driven backdrop. And the production on this album is really cool too. If I listened to this album again, I would be reminded, oh yeah, this is what I want my albums to sound like. To include acoustic guitar, to include lots of background vocals, to include guitar solos and punchy drums. And for a really long time, this was my standard for just overall production quality. And so you got songs like the title track, Speak Now. You got songs like Mine. You got songs like Enchanted, which I play a lot during my live cover sets. You have Mean, which is probably one of the most country songs she's ever written. And then you have songs like Better Than Revenge, which sound like power pop, you know, like songs that are very like guitar heavy, like electric guitar heavy. And what else is I can't remember other highlights right now specifically off the top of my head, but yeah, dude, it just, this was one of the albums that I listened to all the time driving to and from school, because I went to school like 2.5 hours away from home, and I would always end up having time to listen to like 2 or 3 albums. And this was back before, like, I couldn't use Spotify because I was driving to Decatur, the middle of fucking nowhere, in the armpit of Illinois, which meant that I drove through a lot of cornfields and soy fields. And I didn't have internet, so I couldn't connect to Spotify or YouTube to listen to stuff on Spotify or YouTube. So I had to use my car's CD player. I'm not going to say it.
CD's nuts.
CD's nuts player. CD's nuts player. That's what you say to like your like friend who makes a lot of money and who you have a lot of respect for. You're like, see these nuts, player. Just go ahead and take a look at them. You know?
God.
So, I found an even deeper appreciation for some of these songs on her Speak Now World Tour album that came out in 2011. And songs like Better Than Revenge, I would say, have a significantly better live version than studio version. And so that's another reason why this album kind of sits a little lower for me, is the fact that there's a live CD out there with a lot of these songs, and the live versions of these songs I prefer to the studio version, for the most part. And you're probably wondering, like, why isn't the live album here then? Well, it's because, you know, it's only a handful of songs out of the 14 that I think are better live. And I, again, like the production on Speak Now, the record. I like the arrangement of all of the instruments and how they're placed in, you know, the audio space. There's a more technical word for that, but you know how things play in the left ear and play in the right ear, and how they're mixed in the overall mix. Not to sound too redundant, but I'm sure you don't have a whole lot to say about Taylor Swift, just as far as how you feel.
Fucking tell you what I think of Taylor Swift, Nick.
This is your villain origin story, isn't it?
No, I can't stand her. I'm sorry. Like, with a fiery passion.
And listen, you don't have to explain on air why you don't like her. But you know, I think the audience is kind of asking for it, right, guys?
All the ones that are popular are the same fucking garbage all over and over again. We broke up. Your fault. I'm the best.
I don't think so.
Like that fucking shitty ass never getting back together.
Yeah.
Something about trouble.
So those are the songs off the album that I mentioned, Red, that came out when we were in high school and when she kind of like blew up as a pop artist.
Oh my god!
And I think,
the other one.
Yeah, we are never.
Shake It Off. I fucking hate Shake It Off so goddamn much.
That's fair. I think Shake It Off is for a very specific audience, but I will say, I think Speak Now it's a great storytelling album, and there are songs on there where she isn't talking about, you know, how great she is, or how, you know, and like, not that there's anything wrong with that. You know, go off, Taylor. I don't know if kids say that anymore. I'm not on TikTok. But no, I mean, there are songs on here from the perspective of, you know, her parents as she starts growing older, and the song's called Never Grow Up, so it's like a love letter to children about how, like, hey man, fucking sit with your mom the whole time, the whole car ride to school, because even though you're embarrassed of her now, like, she loves you a lot, and you're going to be all alone in an apartment when you're 25, and you're going to go to sleep, and you're going to be like, man, my parents just dropped me off, and I miss them a whole lot already. Yeah, there are, Dear John is about John Mayer, and it's a fantastic fucking song. And also, this album had multiple songs on it that were over 5 minutes long, and usually that's also kind of a no-no for me. Like, I usually can't pay attention for that long. But these songs, they fly by. Which, again, is a credit to the production quality and Taylor's songwriting, and, you know, the way that she is able to put together and structure a song. Back to December. Oh my god, dude. Yeah, some of these songs, they get me right here. Right on my Kirby shirt, right where my heart's supposed to be. Which is now just a big jelly donut. It's just a big jelly donut. So anyway, I could go on and on about how much I like this album, and how whenever people ask me who my influences are as a musician, I always mention Taylor Swift, and I always mention Foo Fighters, and I always mention John Mayer, which may or may not be a hint as to who's coming up later. But yeah, this is, I think, a great album, and I will not be backing down. I think I'll feel this way about this album forever and ever. So, suck it. Jake Gyllenhaal fans, which is also me. I also like Jake Gyllenhaal. And I like John Mayer.
Huh?
Huh?
I don't get it.
Huh?
Anyway.
So now that I'm done gushing about Taylor Swift, we can go back to talking about something that you also like. What are you doing? What are you grabbing? Oh my God, David, what are you doing? It's only a baby. That dog's only a pup. No, that's not supposed to go there.
He's so good. God. He can play Guitar Hero acoustically. Yeah, but can he play Bucket Hat Expert? Go ahead, Thad. Show him.
I hope you're getting the clicking of the buttons. Because I can't hear them. It's just silent on my end.
Guitar Hero 2, huh? That's another clip. That's another clip from South Park.
We're talking about Guitar Hero 2. Yeah, and you know what? I also had a ranking system for my favorite games, which I will show you promptly. So, on my list of games, we obviously have games about... We have games from my childhood that I really liked that I hold in high regard. But as we all know, sometimes things you like as a kid are not the same things that you like as an adult. They're just different audiences that writers and people that make art write for and cater to. So the grading scale couldn't be the same as the albums, right? Because you can't skip parts of a game. I mean, you can skip cutscenes and there are shortcuts in some games. Like you can skip most of Super Mario Brothers 3 if you know the right, pipes and stuff. So instead, I color coordinated my choices for games. So here's the key, which I wrote at the top for myself anytime I looked back on this note. Yellow means it's a nostalgic choice, as in it is 10 plus years old. And then much like streetlights, yellow becomes either red or green. So you never know if you're going to be able to go after a yellow light or if you have to stop. And red means that the game does not hold up, or there's a better version of the game that exists, right? But that's only if it's 10 plus years old. And then green means that the game does hold up, even though it is older, and even though I might be blinded by nostalgia for choosing it in the first place. Having played it later in life, I can confirm that these nostalgic games still hold up. So a lot of the games at the bottom of my list are games from my childhood that did not hold up, but I wanted to include on my list because I spent a lot of time playing them. So Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 belongs at the very bottom because, dude, there are so many Dragon Ball fighting games that are better than Budokai 2. Like, I'm pretty sure Budokai 2 was like the 4th or 5th fighting game that they ever put out. And since then there have been, and I'm rounding down here, 1,008 fighting games for Dragon Ball and the Dragon Ball series. So I put that at the bottom, and then Guitar Hero 2 goes just barely above it for the exact same reason. Although I feel like there weren't as many Guitar Hero games that I liked more than Guitar Hero 2. But there were a couple. So let's talk Guitar Hero. It was released. Where'd you go?
I've had Jordan in my mind this entire time.
Yeah, I've been trying my best to ignore your head throwing. What do they call that when kids who listen to rock and roll bob their head back and forth? What is that called? Is the noggin jogging?
Noggin jogging, yeah.
And when you jog your noggin. So Guitar Hero 2, developed by Harmonix and Red Octane, was released November 7th, 2006, which makes it one of the oldest games on my list. And I don't know, man. All I can say is I'm going to tell the same story that we have probably already told on this podcast before, but do you remember Guitar Hero 3? Do you remember Mr. Grace's Guitar Hero tournament? Yeah, so during it was like not the presidential testing, but it was like ISATs. It was like state testing in Illinois. We didn't have the same schedule in middle school as we did on normal days because, you know, you're doing like school-wide testing, and I don't know how they ended up separating our groups, but we would sometimes end up in the homeroom of a teacher that we've never had before. And depending on how early your group is able to get, you know, done with tests, the rest of the day that you had to spend at school was spent doing fun stuff. And based on the teacher that you ended up with, you either did like a free period where you could, you know, be on your iPods or read a book or like whatever and relax, or you could end up in the choir room with the music teacher and have a competition to see who the best Guitar Hero player is. And so in the middle of the week, we narrowed down the brackets and we played Guitar Hero. And then I think over the course of the week, we just played more Guitar Hero and got closer to the top of the bracket, or the middle of the bracket. But I, for fear of getting made fun of for being bad at the game, but trying hard to be good at it, this is how fragile my ego is. I instead held the guitar incorrectly on purpose and just kept strumming incorrect notes so that I could end my turn as early as possible, which does not sound like me at all now, and except for the me pissing my pants part, because I did that too. But that was my first introduction to Guitar Hero, and I think we were in the same group for that. But you also didn't make it very far, I don't think, because neither of us
this at all.
Because I don't think either of us had we didn't have Guitar Hero. Like neither of us had the guitar.
Even back then, I only played with a controller.
Yeah, it wasn't until Metallica that you got the actual guitar peripheral.
Maybe,
something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it was a very unnatural thing for us, but eventually, I ended up going to sleep over at certain friends' houses that had Guitar Hero, and I got hooked very, very quickly after that, partially because of my love for classic rock music, especially in the earlier games, but also because I feel like a lot of my friends were playing Guitar Hero, and it was just like the cool thing to do. Like Guitar Hero 3, it was the perfect game at the right time to come out, and it spurred on so many lookalikes and so many copycats that also wanted to get in on the rhythm game craze. And, it was just the popular thing to do. So my mom ended up getting me a Guitar Hero game with the controller, but the only game that was available at Game Crazy or whatever store we got the controller from was Guitar Hero 2. So I played the shit out of that game, despite 90% of the songs being covers, including Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters. But I didn't realize they were covers at the time. I was just glad to have the game and glad to be able to play through a story mode of songs that I'd never played before, which would end up being every Guitar Hero after that. But because Guitar Hero 2 was the only one that I owned for a while, I ended up playing that a ton. I'm trying to think of other songs that game had. Jordan by Buckethead, which I never touched because I was too nervous to try to play that. And
that was Through the Fire and Flames before Through the Fire and Flames.
Yeah, I can only think of Guitar Hero 3 songs like Slow Ride and Rock and Roll All Night. But yeah, did you ever play Guitar Hero 2?
I did. I mean, I have it. But that was a later one. I didn't go back because I started at 3. And like you said, it's I played it a lot and didn't even realize that most of the songs aren't the real one.
Yeah. Okay. So out of the
Oh shit, they have Primus in the second one? I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, out of the 40 songs in the main career mode of Guitar Hero 2, 4 of them are the original recordings. And one of them is Primus, John the Fisherman.
There's a lot of good songs in here, but it's not the original, so it's like I wouldn't go back to it.
Well, and they ended up releasing Guitar Hero, was it World Tour or Smash Hits? They released Guitar Hero Smash Hits, which included the original master recordings of a lot of these like songs, like the popular songs from a lot of the older games. But yeah, dude, we got Bad Reputation by Thin Lizzy. You got Carry On Wayward Son. You got Cherry Pie. Crazy on You by Heart. Freebird. You have fucking free. You had Hangar 18, Heart Shaped Box, Killing in the Name, Message in a Bottle, which I loved playing. There was Rock This Town by the Stray Cats, which was also in another rhythm game that I played a lot in middle school called Elite Beat Agents on the Nintendo DS. You had Surrender by Cheap Trick's Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. There was a Spinal Tap song called Tonight I'm Gonna Rock You Tonight, which I never knew they were a parody band. You had The Trooper by Iron Maiden, War Pigs by Black Sabbath, YYZ by Rush. So it was like they had a banger after banger, and I was just so happy. I was so happy to be able to play a Guitar Hero game. I didn't care if there were songs that I didn't know. I didn't care if they were covers. Yeah, and I don't really have a whole lot else to say about Guitar Hero 2. That wouldn't just bleed into conversations about Guitar Hero in general. I will say, I feel like Guitar Hero and learning to play on the Guitar Hero controller, it might have fucked up my hands permanently playing real guitar, because the way that the Guitar Hero guitar is set up is it's 5 buttons all horizontally in a row, kind of like 5 frets on a string, but only one string. So when you play a chord on a Guitar Hero guitar, it's not like playing a chord on a real guitar, because if you were to do that on a real guitar, you would just play the highest fret, your finger furthest, like closest to you.
The infamous 5-chord note.
Yeah, dude. And don't even get me fucking started on like the Pro
raining
controller with the tappy stuff that you can use for like the harmonics. But when I ended up picking up a real guitar in 2010 and started learning songs on my own and learning riffs and writing songs, I had infinitely more trouble. I'm convinced I had more trouble learning how to play guitar after playing Guitar Hero for so long than I would have had I just picked up a guitar like, a normal person. So in the years since I've, started doing music professionally, I've had to unlearn a lot of guitar techniques and holding the way that I hold the neck of the guitar and press down on the frets and stuff. But I will always cherish my memories with Guitar Hero. It doesn't matter what version of Guitar Hero. I've played almost all of them, except for Guitar Hero Tap on the DS. Never bothered touching that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, after that, Guitar Hero in general, Guitar Hero specifically, but also rhythm games in general, blew the fuck up. And then you had Rock Band, you had DJ Hero, you had all of the rhythm games that were like, yeah, the DK, the bongo one, the Jungle Kong.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah. And then eventually, developers stopped making rhythm games. I think the last one that really became super popular was the Saber one, Beat Saber, like the VR one. But I think that's as far as you can take it. I remember when they tried to put out Rocksmith, that was like, yeah, plug in your actual guitar to the game and then play music that way. I never bothered trying to touch that because, again, at that point I was already playing music, so it would have felt kind of weird. Kind of would have felt like a step back. At least if I'm gonna play a video game that is music oriented, let me use a toy. You know, like I'm not gonna use my $400 guitar just to get notes wrong in a Guitar Hero game. But yeah, I think it's honestly for the best. I think rhythm games, as fun as they are, now they've been downgraded to iPhone apps and kids.
Just get Clone Hero.
Yeah, I will say the Guitar Hero community has given life to the Guitar Hero series through Clone Hero, which people get so creative on Clone Hero.
This shit's not going away. It's never going away. They might have stopped making games, but it's never going away.
Yeah, and that's what I will say about rhythm games is they have a very passionate fan base. So thank you all of the folks who have made Clone Hero songs or Clone Hero stages for songs that we have listened to. Like they have people made Origami Angel songs in Clone Hero. People have made the Dokkan soundtrack into Clone Hero tracks.
Yeah.
So I think putting Guitar Hero 2 at number 14 on my list makes a lot of sense because I couldn't not include a rhythm game. Yeah, and I'm sure Guitar Hero might come up again on an episode of the podcast, but we are getting to the end here. So thank you to everyone for listening us ramble about mobile games for like half an hour and then talk about an old man trying to off himself. If you like what you heard, you can find us on YouTube. We post a lot of clips of older episodes that are segmented in case you only have 10 minutes on your way back and forth to Jewel to listen to an episode and you want to hear a specific topic. I have been Nick Scarpin Otto.
I have been Scott Jeans.
Oh my God. And this has been a 2012 International 4x4 Hummer? Oh, I don't know. This is Vanessa, and you are all amazing. So we will see you at the end of March with another exciting episode where I will talk about how devastating it was to see my second uncle walk straight into the Pacific Ocean like Godzilla and disappear out of my life forever.
Wow.